shot quickly. Alright, so we on day 86 outside of City Hall, occupying City Hall. 86 days. That's the canopies back there. Do a real quick rundown of the backstory for anybody who might be unaware. We've been occupying City Hall for 86 days because 87 days ago, Rockford Police Department had a police officer that shot Tyrus Jones. Tyrus Jones had warrants, that had outstanding warrants. Police officer went to apprehend Tyrus Jones. Tyrus Jones fled in a vehicle. Vehicle crashed into another car. Once the vehicle crashed into another car, Tyrus Jones exited the vehicle and began to flee on foot. And then he was shot in the back by Officer Dominic McNeese of the Rockford Police Department. Tyrus Jones did not have a weapon. Tyrus Jones did not pose a threat. Tyrus Jones did not have any kind of hostages. You know, he wasn't holding nobody at gunpoint. Tyrus Jones had not just harmed anybody when Dominic McNeese shot him. Okay, so I just want to make sure that that's something that's clarified. I want to hold on. All right. I want to try to make sure that in the midst of speaking on some of these subjects, that I'm as respectful as possible to all parties involved. So that's the situation with Tyrus Jones. That's the reason that we outside of City Hall. Yesterday, it was a shooting at Down Carter, random act of violence where a man shot 6 people, murdered 3 people. This was a white man, however, and he was brought in safely. He was not shot. He was not harmed. In his mugshot, he didn't look like he had any kind of scratch on him. And as unfortunate as it is to be trying to get some kind of point proven or get some kind of message across, and with a tragedy like this, I think that it's important that what's the conversation that's being had in every black household in Rockford right now is had publicly. The conversations we've had privately too long should be had publicly. And the conversation that's being had privately right now is that if this was a black person, they would have been shot. The conversation that's being had privately right now, is that Kerry Blake was shot. The conversation that's being had privately right now is that just 2 months ago, Tyrus Jones, who didn't have a gun, who didn't have a weapon, who hadn't just shot anybody, he was shot in the back. And this man was brought in with no bullets, no scars on him, no marks on him. And it just goes again towards being evidence, towards proving the point that being black in Rockford, being black when it comes to the police department is a weapon within itself. And that it is clear that this inherent bias cannot be ethic trained out. It can't be playing around with kids trained out. It has to be something that has to be in a sense policied out by accountability. That's going to be the only thing. If we continue to try to just wait for it to be some kind of equitability when it comes to black suspects and white suspects, we're going to continue on this cycle over and over again. But once we start getting to a place where it's accountability for officers who don't treat black suspects the same way they treat white suspects, once we get to that place, then we'll start seeing something different. When we get to a place where Dominic McNeese is not collecting paychecks still after shooting somebody in the back, when he has fellow officers who are in the same department as him who can find a way to go to a building where it's a mass shooter and bring him in unharmed and unshot. And so, let me see. I don't know how much this is gonna, how much longer this gonna last, but I'm just gonna try to touch on a few things while I got time. One of the things I want to touch on too is it was a lot of people within the black community and outside of the black community as well. But I try to address a lot of these things to the black community. It was a lot of people who tried to justify their inaction concerning what happened with Tyrus Jones to criminal charges that have been filed against him. I see some of those same people now making posts talking about how they upset that black men get shot when they get pulled over, or when they get stopped, but white people get brought in safely. See, this is the issue that we have to decide as a community. First, as a community in Rockford, we have to decide this, and then as a nation, as a people, we gonna have to decide this too. We gonna have to decide when we gonna stop just saying something and just preaching something, when we gonna start practicing something and acting on something. Okay, so don't make no post today talking about how why black people can't get brought in safely, but white shooters can get brought in safely. You need to have that same energy no matter what the circumstances is when a black suspect gets shot. That has to be the mentality when a black suspect gets shot. Don't wait for when a white suspect don't get shot to bring up that they need to not shoot black suspects. When a black suspect gets shot, you need to have that same energy. You need to have that same empathy. You need to have that same passion. When Tyrus Jones was shot on October 2nd, it should anybody who making any post now today or sharing any memes or sharing any gifs that's touching on the differences between white mass shooters and black suspects, they needed to be doing that same thing on October 2nd. And if you didn't, or if you're not informed and you didn't get a chance to get informed because you have some kind of bias, that's fine too. You need to go back now. You need to go get informed on what has been taking place in this city over the past 2 months. There's examples of these things taking place on a regular basis in this city. We can't just sit at computers and sit on smartphones and have these philosophical debates or sit on these phones and sit at home with friends and group chats and group messages and have these philosophical conversations and philosophical dialogues. There's people who these injustices have been inflicted upon that need action. They need action. And we can't continue to just wait for some kind of reminder of the injustices that's being faced. I seen a post that said that the young man who got shot, there was a young man who was shot in the face who ran to the police officers in need of help, and the police officers had weapons drawn on him as if he was the suspect. And we know that's because of the skin color. We know that that's a fact. And I'll leave it upon the mayor and leave it upon the state's attorney, Jay Hanley, and leave it upon the chief of police to get up there and speak about the things that took place specifically yesterday. What I'm going to take my time and my platform to speak on is the implications that these things have on the city that we are raising our children in, the city that we are our loved ones are in. And the implications that have been continuously told to us in this community is that the skin color determines the manner in which you are treated by this police department. That skin color determines the manner in which crimes are covered in this city when they happen. The skin color determines those things. Go back and watch when that gas station got shot up. I just was doing these things. I'm down here. I don't want people thinking that people down here and people down here just hanging out or sleeping and chilling. Yesterday, I went back and I watched and compared and contrasted the press conference and the immediate speaking that the chief of police had after the shooting at the gas station in Wailo, where 5 people were shot, 1 person was killed, and then the manner in which he spoke yesterday after the shooting at Don Carter, where 6 people were shot. Same kind of shooting, same thing. The only difference is that one situation concerned a certain ethnic group, and the other situation concerned a different ethnic group, and they both got, even just the manner in which the chief of police spoke about the incidents was vastly different. When the gas station got shot up at Wailo, he spoke of a group of group mentality, of this idea that even though one person did a shooting, that it was this collective consciousness, this collective culture, these collective group of people who was responsible for these things happening. As opposed to now, when this shooting happens and these actions happen, and they speak as if it's just this one person that's responsible. And that's the same thing that you see in these comments. When people thought that it was a black person that may have shot up the place, shot up trying not to say shot up shooters, excuse me. Black person that shot up the bar, people had a very specific mindset in those comments, and it would have been a very specific type of energy being used if it would have been a black person, and this would have been some kind of quote unquote street incident. Okay, even when the Waylo gas station got shot up, they kept repeating they don't know if this is gang related. Not once even before they had the shooter yesterday, not once did you hear nothing about that this may be gang related. Just go back and look and compare and contrast the news articles from then. Compare and contrast the mayor didn't do no press conference when the gas station in Waylo got shot up. And again, all of these things is things that is politics. All of these things are things that we gotta, as a community, as a group of people, as even as individuals, that we gotta be more aware of if we gonna ever get to a position in which we got power to get actual change, and we got power to have any kind of actuality. Before we can do any of these things, we have to acknowledge what these issues is. We have to be able to point out when these things happen. When that young child, that 3-year-old child got shot and killed, it was politicized. It was politicized by news outlets. It was politicized by the mayor. It was politicized by the police department. They try to use that to cast aspersions on anybody that they deem to fit into enacting community violence. Anybody, and let's not even just cut to the chase. They try to use that to politicize against young black men, against young black people. Look, this is what they doing. It's the same thing anytime any kind of deep tragedy happens, and if it's concerning black people, it's politicized to cast all black people into the same category. It's politicized to give reason to treat black communities like police states. That's not going to happen with this. This is going to be treated as one individual thing, as one outlier. White men won't be an increase in white men getting pulled over in the street starting this week. It won't be an increase in white men that go to bars getting followed around and looked at a little bit differently. None of those things that happen. Oh, the video skipped me. That's probably because of this code. That's probably because of this code. Like I said, man, the temperature, I'm still out here in City Hall. It's day 86. The temperatures out here are going to affect how well the broadcast is for this. So I apologize if the broadcast is coming in and out. Another thing, the same way that people is up in arms and upset about this. I think that we need to, because it's people that maybe don't understand the purpose of us being at City Hall, the purpose of us still being at City Hall, and the purpose of all of these things is that the purpose of all of these things is too much to try to lay out in one live video. It's after 86 days, the complexities is it's too much to lay out. But I want to point out a few things, a multitude of things. First thing I want to point out is that the very first reason that we ever came out here, the mayor having a press conference exclusively about Tyrus Jones being shot by the police department, never took place. The mayor answering questions from the media concerning the shooting of Tyrus Jones and concerning the ongoing police brutality that has taken place in this city never took place. So it's never been a need for the goal line to be moved for us. It's never been a need to alter what our motives have been. He stuck to his footing of he don't think that it's worth his time to give a press conference about this, and he'll pick and choose which things are worth his time to give a press conference about. And we've stuck to our motives of this is worthy of a press conference, and we will be here until a press conference is given. So that's the main reason we came here is still the same. Secondly, the family of Tyrus Jones released three things that were demands. In advocacy of those three things, we continue to stay out here. Every day that we're out here, somebody comes out here and asks us what we're out here for. We raise awareness to what happened with Tyrus Jones. It's still in a community of 140,000 people. The city government, and not even just the city government, the infrastructure of this nation in general is set up in a manner in which people are kept oblivious to issues like this. So it's still people who don't even know what's going on. So we continue to serve a purpose just of informing people by being out here. So that's three reasons right there that we continue to be out here. If every day that we out here, we only tell one other person, and if that one person wouldn't have known without us being out here, then we serve a purpose. That's what we have to get to, again, collectively as a community, is acknowledging what purpose we are trying to serve, and then figuring out which means we are willing to go to serve that purpose. The people that are outside of City Hall, occupying City Hall, have determined what those means are that they're willing to go to serve that purpose. And then on the side of that, events will continue to happen in this nation. Events will continue to happen in this city that highlight the racial injustices, the racial discriminations, the racial inequity that is pervasive in this community, that's pervasive in this city, that's pervasive in this county, that's pervasive in this region, in this nation. These things will continue to happen. I'm a strong believer in energy. I'm a strong believer in cycles and in history and things repeating themselves. And so I've studied history. I've studied some of the cycles, some of the reoccurring themes around issues such as police brutality and police terrorism, and it's not going to stop. It's going to continue to happen. It's more likely that in the next calendar year, the Rockford Police Department shoots somebody than that they don't shoot somebody statistically. So what purpose what sense would it make for us to stay out here for, let's say, 40 days, then pack up and then somebody gets shot 10 days after that, or somebody gets shot 50 days after that, or somebody gets shot 70 days after that? Or let's say, for example, just like how today is, it's a lot of people who have allowed themselves to go back to sleep when it comes to these issues and concerning these issues. And so when something like this happens, they got to wake back up and they got to reignite that fire and get mad all over again. And now they're trying to figure out where to place this anger at and where to place this frustration at. And for us that's been out here occupying City Hall, that same thing is not there, because of the understanding of the end goal, and the understanding of the means that we're willing to go to serve a purpose. And so we already out. I'm already out here in the process of. I'm already out here in the process of using that anger, using that emotion for productive means. That fire don't got to get rekindled over here. The fire has been burning over here, and when these events happen, we just burn right through those. Again, December, and I want to point this out too. On December 30th, we got an event out here at City Hall, a memorial for Carrie Blake. It's the anniversary of Carrie Blake being lynched. That's what these things are. What happened with Tyrus Jones is the police department, the officer Dominic McNeese, took it upon himself to attempt to lynch Tyrus Jones in the streets, to be judge, jury, and executioner in the streets. But this is something that is done to specific groups of people, to specific communities of people. This is not something that they're not treating they're not trying to be judge, jury, and executioner with everybody. That's something that they know that they can get away with a certain select group of people. It's something that they've been institutionalized and indoctrinated into understanding. It's easy to get away with a certain group of people. You see, it's going to be more attention on an incident like this. So if you do something stepping out of line and shooting the mass shooter in this situation, it's going to be highlighted more, as opposed to if you pulling over somebody who got warrants, who, if you shoot them, it's not going to be no national story. It's not going to be on the bottom line ticker is on CNN. It's not going to get hundreds of thousands of views when people talking about it. It's just going to be another local police shooting in a city where police shootings have been being justified since the inception of the city, or in the inception of the police in the city. And that's the psychology that goes into some of these situations. And unfortunately, again, like I said, it's unfortunate that in a tragedy, in someone else's tragedy, it's unfortunate that in someone else's tragedy, people feel the need to try to highlight an injustice. It's a shame that in one injustice happening, another injustice is being highlighted. But it's no different than what happens when, you know, we have to get to a point as a people where we are not allowed to, or we don't allow people to use things against us that we won't also use. We have to get to a point as a people where we understand politics to the extent that during the summer when we were saying Black Lives Matter, during the summer when we were saying I can't breathe, during the summer when we was trying to be advocates during the summer when we was trying to be advocates for the injustices that the black community faces on a regular basis, one of the main things that we was faced with were people talking about all lives matter, were people talking about blue lives matter, were people bringing up other injustices that they felt should be being spoken of on the same level or higher than the injustices that we were speaking of. So something that we have to learn to do as a people is, and it's unfortunate, but we have to, that same tactic has to be used back on certain situations. And so in a situation like this, since it is the truth that in black households, in black group messages, people are talking about how come they can bring this man in unharmed while he's armed, but they have to shoot black people when they pull him over at traffic stops, or they have to shoot black people when it's some kind of a domestic issue, or they have to shoot black people when they're trying to pull them over on warrants. That's a real conversation that's happening, and that has to be a conversation that black people aren't just having in the privacy of their home or on Facebook. That has to be a conversation that we start forcing politicians to have, that we start forcing police officers to have. At that press conference today, somebody should have asked him, how come Tyrus Jones couldn't have been brought in one piece if this man who just shot 6 people in cold blood and had a weapon was brought in one piece? We have to get to that place. Till then, we outside.